Welcome to 3.5. Oh, that is thick. Let's change that. Okay, 3.5. Solving by completing the square. And you might be thinking, we're doing another day on completing the square. Why, yes. Yes, we are. Because last time, we dealt with a does not equal 1. And what I mean by that, here's standard form. And we learned how to complete the square when a does not equal 1. Great. And we're still going to carry that through today, but today it's like complete the square level expert. What I mean by that is you're just going to deal with fractions like all day. So we're going to have a great time. And what I really want to emphasize here, nothing is different. We are just using fractions. So let's just get into it. Let's solve some stuff. All right, first example. Let's do, I'm going to lowball you to start with. 10x squared minus 10x plus 7 equals 0. Okay, when you are asked to solve an equation and the method, you can use whatever method you want if it doesn't tell you what method to use. And so for me personally, I try factoring first because factoring, especially if I can use a shortcut, goes so much faster. I look at this, there's no greatest common factor, and so I can multiply these together and I say, all right, well, what multiplies to get to 70 but adds to negative 10? Ooh, that's really not going to work out for us. It doesn't factor. So we're not going to factor it. Why? Because it doesn't factor. I can't find the two numbers that multiply to 70, add to negative 10. That's how I know it doesn't factor. So when it doesn't factor, I'm going to complete the square. And like we talked about last time, first thing we're going to do, I'm just going to encourage you to move that 7 to the other side. So I get 10x squared minus 10x equals negative 7. All right, now we're going to factor out the GCF, meaning I'm going to factor out this a value here. So I'm going to factor out 10 x squared minus x. Leave a blank to fill. It still equals negative 7. Okay, well, to find the value that completes the square, just a reminder to fill this blank here, I'm going to take my middle term, divide it by 2, and we're going to square it. So for this example, this negative is like a negative 1. So negative 1 divided by 2 squared, well, that's going to be a positive 1/4. But this is what's important. I didn't just add 1/4 to that side. I did 10 times 1/4 to that side. So really, I'm adding 10/4, which 10/4, well, that's equal to 5/2. So I'm adding 5/2 over here. Okay, so this 10 is going to stay. I'm going to go ahead and convert that perfect square trinomial, our little PST, our PST, this is a perfect square trinomial because it meets those qualifications. So I'm going to go x minus 1/2 squared. Miss Lambert, how did you know it was 1/2? Well, because the way the perfect square trinomial converts, it is always, always, always x plus the b over 2 squared. There's a lot of colors going on here. I understand. Okay, so now I have to do negative 7 plus 5/2. Well, negative 7, that's negative 14/2 plus 5 more halves. That gets us to negative 9/2. And now we get the joy of dividing everything by 10. And on the right side, instead of doing this divided by 10th, I'm going to do it as times by 1/10 because that's just going to make it so much easier when I'm dealing with these fractions. So those are going to cancel. We get x minus 1/2 squared equals negative 9 over 20. And now when we square root, we need to square root top and bottom. Negative 9 over 20. So that's going to be 2 squared root of 5. I'm just going to come up here to finish that. X minus 1/2 equals plus or minus the square root of negative 9 is 3i. And then I have 2 square root 5. We don't like square root of 5. But we don't like square root of 5, I mean we have to rationalize the denominator. So x minus 1/2 equals plus or minus 3i square root 5 all over 2 times square root of 5 times square root of 5 is just 5. So 2 times 5 is 10. And now we add 1/2. And that's fine and dandy, but I actually want you to get a common denominator. I want you to just get used to putting it in that format. So with this, the 1/2, well that's the same as if I put 5/10. So we get 5 plus or minus 3i square root 5 all over 10. What a good time that was. It was just delightful, honestly. Maybe you don't feel that way. But guys, just take a moment. Look at what you did. Look at all this math that you have done. Just be proud of that, because that's freaking awesome. And you might be remembering that I said I was going to lowball you to start with. Well, as I said, we're getting to complete the square level expert today. So we're going to do another example. You might be wondering, you know, that wasn't very fun. How is that going to get worse? Maybe you're not wondering that, but I'm going to show you. Sorry, that sounds terrible. Okay, let's do, this one looks good. Negative 12r squared plus 2r plus 14 equals negative 7. Okay, we're going to start just by moving the 14 to the other side, and with your permission, I'm also going to factor out a negative 12 from right there. Okay, so if I factor out negative 12, left with r squared plus, I'm just kidding, minus, well, 2 over 12, that's 1/6. And now you're going, I see how it got worse. It's because now, with the last example, I didn't have a fraction yet, but here I have a fraction. And so I'm going to show you some tips and tricks of how to work with these fractions, at least what I do. Okay, I'm going to find the value that completes the square. Once again, take the middle term, divide it by 2, and square it. Well, here we already have a fraction. So I'm doing negative 1/6 divided by 2. And, you know, that's like divide by 2 over 1, and then you can flip and multiply and all that jazz. I prefer to instead think about it, instead of just dividing it by 2, that's the same as multiplying it by 1/2. So this becomes negative 1/12, and we're going to square that to get 1 over 44. And we are having so much fun. But we didn't do just add 1 over 44. We did negative 12 times 1 over 44. So if I times that by negative 12 over 1, what's nice there is that 12 is going to cancel with one of those. I'm left with 1/12, a negative 1/12. So I'm going to do minus 1/12 on the other side as well. Okay, if you need to pause and go back and watch that again, now would be a good time to do that before we get on to the rest of the mass. Okay, so negative 12, let's convert this lovely perfect square trinomial into a squared binomial. So I'm going to do r, and once again, that's going to be an x plus b over 2 squared. And we already talked about b over 2 in this case is going to be a negative 1/12. So I'm going to go r minus 1/12. That's going to be squared. And that's going to equal, okay, this negative 21 minus 1/12, we can convert it to fractions and all that jazz. Here's what, honestly, as soon as I get into all of these fractions, I think it's just easier to use a calculator. I'm not testing you on how to multiply a fraction. I'm testing you on completing the square. And so as far as calculator goes, here's what I'm going to type in for this part here. I'm just going to type in negative 21 minus parentheses 1 divided by 12. And then I'm going to hit enter, and you're going to get some big decimal. And so what you're going to do, if you have a TI calculator, you're going to hit the math button, which is on the left side, and you're going to have option 1 for frac. That means you're going to turn it into a fraction, and then you're going to hit enter, and you're going to do that twice. And that's going to convert that to a fraction for you. If you have a Casio calculator, what's nice, you just have a button that says F to D, that's fraction to decimal, so you can just hit that, and it's going to convert that for you. Okay, so negative 21 minus parentheses 1 divided by 12. Math frac that thing, and I'm going to get negative 253 over 12. So much fun. Okay, well next I have to divide everything by negative 12, which is the same as multiplying by 1 over negative 12. Ooh. Those cancel, so and those cancel, and so I'm left with r minus 1/2 squared equals positive 253 over 144, because the 12 times 12 on the bottom. Okay, having fun yet? Because now we get a square root, and that's like square rooting a fraction is like square rooting top and bottom. So I'm left with r minus 1/2 equals plus or minus. I'm actually just going to write this as square rooting top and bottom right there. 253 over 144. It's just going to be make it easier. Plus or minus, oh, that's nice. I don't have to rationalize the denominator on this one. Square root of 12 over square root of 253. We can try and simplify that. It turns out it's not divisible by anything, so we're good there. So now we're going to Wow, okay. Why didn't someone tell me that this is 1/6, not 1/2? It's because I'm talking to myself in my office, that's why. 1/6, sorry everyone. It's 1/12. Oh my gosh, okay. Why didn't anyone tell me I was missing the 2? Because I'm talking to myself in my office, it's fine. There we go. Okay, now we can add the 1/12. R equals 1/12 plus or minus square root 253 over 12. And they already have a common denominator, which is awesome because that means my answer is just 1 plus or minus square root 253 over 12. Okay, I hope what you're learning is that you can do hard things, because that's how I'm feeling here. I feel like I can do hard things. I think we need to do one more example before you can just use the rest of class to work on your homework. Which, does that ever happen? No. You're welcome. I just dropped the iPad. And by dropped it, I mean it just slipped out of its little holder thing. It's fine. Okay, let's do... Does this one look good? That one looks like Child's Play. By Child's Play, it's not an ugly fraction. I want something nasty. That one looks good. All right. Negative 7x squared minus 3x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, we'll start by adding 3. And I'm just going to go ahead and factor out the negative 7 from that first part. So we go negative 7, x squared, that becomes a positive 3/7. And we're going to fill in the blank that gets a positive 3. Okay, to fill in this blank, we're going to take 3/7. Wow, I'm really writing this in red again. Why, yes. Yes, I am. I'm going to take 3/7 and divide it by 2. Well, 3/7 divided by 2 is the same as timesing by 1/2, so that's what I'm going to do. So now I'm going to square 3 over 14. I get 9 over, what is 14 squared? 196 plus 9 over 196. But I didn't just add 9 over 196, I added 7 times that. So if I times that by a negative 7, 196 divided by 7, that's 28, so that 7 cancels, and that leaves me with the 28. So I get 9 over 28. It's a minus, my bad, because it was a negative 7. So minus 9 over 28. Okay, negative 7. That was a perfect square trinomial, which means I can convert it using x plus b over 2 squared. Well, b over 2 is x plus, there's b over 2, 3 over 14. Squared. Okay, and once again I'm going to take this to the calculator. I'm just going to go 3 minus 9 divided by 28. And we're going to math frac it. And you get 75 over 28. Okay. I'll divide by negative 7, which is the same as multiplying by negative 1/7. Okay. Those cancel to leave me with x plus 3 over 14 squared. 28 times 7 is 196, so this gives me a negative 75 over 196. And now we can square root. And that's like square rooting the top and the bottom. X plus 3 over 14 equals, alright, there's a square root of a negative. I know I'm going to have an I in there. Okay, 75, that's like 3 and 25, which is 5 and 5. So it becomes 5I square root of 3. And the square root of 196 is 14. Ooh, that's nice. I don't have to get a common denominator here. I subtract 3/14 from both sides. And I get x equals negative 3 plus or minus 5I square root 3 over 14. All right. Look, we did it. Look at you go. You're so good at math. I'm so proud of you. You guys are awesome. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of class to just work on your homework as I sit in my district meeting.